host an open house this weekend.
That's good.
Great job.
Good job.
I think Boyd, he helped me out getting connected with the native New Hampshire.
Okay.
The Shire.
New Hampshire.
The Shire.
The Shire.
I love it. Thank you, John. Anyone else?
That's right.
Oh.
Next one.
Oh, that's awesome. Good terms, ending on good terms, always a good idea.
Yeah.
I want to fill Lynette's bucket because she's always the first person we see every day when we come to the office. She's always so positive and so helpful. So I just want you to know that we all appreciate her.
I would agree.
Yeah,
Rich?
I need a second last year, help me out Saturday morning, for text, got one on it, thank you.
Anyone else? Nope. All right, well, thank you. We're going to move on to our regional partners. Kimber, do you want to come up with Jake? Tell us about the hub.
Okay, so, I am probably not a brand new face. Actually, I'll be a face. Okay, there you go. So my name is Kimber Walton. I am actually, I've been on staff at KW South Valley for now going on 7 years. And my license is there. And Jake is also licensed at KW South Valley. So we're in the process with Emily, and she was running a little late. So we're just going, the show must go on. But we are developing basically a hub team where we are really just focusing on the value that we give all of our agents in Salt Lake County. So that includes specifically this office, our Sandy office, and then South Valley and South Jordan. And so it is a little bit more of a developing thing right now, but me and Jake's focus really is strategic marketing, technology, and really content. Those are kind of our babies. So we just wanted to introduce ourselves to you guys, and we'll be hosting, I will specifically be hosting a training in this office every single month. Also, I'll be supporting Delaney a lot in some of the things that she's going to be doing for you guys in regards to integrating our technology, systems and tools. And Jake, I'll let you introduce yourself just as far as like content. What are you focusing on?
Yeah. So my name is Jake. I also am a real estate agent at South Valley, which my license is. I'm brand new to this new hub team anyways, just a few weeks. I will be building marketing content for you guys, hopefully that you can just implement easily, seamlessly, and that you'll enjoy, that your clients will enjoy as well. It's going to be a slow build, but be patient, great things are going to come.
So my first training, it'll be on your training calendar if it's not already, but it's next Wednesday from 11 to 12. It's focusing on elevating your lead gen with the Command app. So my trainings, I like to have focused on, like, we have our phones out and we're doing something. So very workshop focused. So the only prerequisite for that class would be like have your database in the system first. That will make it, you'll get the most out of it. If you're not at that point yet, please just come. And yeah, so we just, yeah, Boyd.
Just for those of you who haven't, and I appreciate you guys being here, but
Yeah.
Has anyone in here seen some of the smart plans Timber's been doing and sharing? So that's all part of this. We want this to be good content that you can all use, and it is sort of plug and play. So her workshops or her classes will teach you how to do it, but also have some very valuable stuff that you can just plug in and do. And I'm grateful for you doing that. The agents have loved it. And Jake is more of sort of thinking about our overall brand, how to make things look very cohesive, and things that you can plug into also. Some of that branding will be for our specific market center, our recruiting, and our consumer facing that you can use also to send out to your consumer. I'm excited about you guys working together.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because that was something that I just identified as a big need. And now I get to, in my role, I get to scale that. I get to continue creating that content, what you guys need, a solid open house follow-up plan, a good post-closing plan to get more referrals. Like those are the strategic things that we're going to be focusing on. And we will be, I will be in this office at least one day a week.
Do you know what that, is it gonna be a recurring, like it'll be the same day? So
Yeah, I'm planning on Wednesdays.
Wednesdays?
Yep.
And all day Wednesdays?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, yep, all Wednesdays, and then, yeah, next week, we'll be doing that training, so I'd love to see you guys there. Are we doing physical trainings still in this office? Okay, yeah, so it will be in person and, yeah.
We'll be hybrid, we'll do both.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Well, yes,
I just want to throw out, like, I did a meeting with you and Delaney last week or something.
Yeah.
We did that 30 or that 12.
36 steps, yep.
36 steps, thank
Yeah.
you. And it took like, what, 20 minutes to get it all downloaded and
Yeah.
set up. The content's already there. I just have people to it. Like, it's the easiest thing, and the fact that I haven't had it for 2 years, is probably not the best idea. So
Hey,
I appreciate
there you go.
all-
That's
I
what
appreciate your
wanted. Yeah.
support. Yeah, you guys aren't using that plan or haven't downloaded it. You should be in that training and use it.
Yeah, yeah, and also open to suggestions, right? If there's something that has been on your wish list, to-do list for a long time, please reach out to me. I'll put my phone number on here so you can just save it in your phone.
We can send that out today's email too.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, we
Okay.
appreciate the support from each of us.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Another thing was, have we introduced Eden?
Oh, I think they're gonna be a separate thing. Okay. Thank you all.
Before I have Josh come up and introduce our guests today, we have a lot of people on Zoom who are joining us. We want to not have too much noise in the background because we're having some audio issues. So we'll keep our enthusiasm till the end. Josh, you want to come up?
You guys, I'm so excited. Gary Birdsall is here. He's the president and CEO of the South Salt Lake Chamber rather. He's a longtime friend of mine. He's probably one of the best networkers I've ever met in my entire life. And he got lucky enough to be picked up by South Salt Lake, the chamber. I think, how many years is this?
9 years.
9 years ago, right as things for South Salt Lake were really starting to change. All of us in here do a lot of business in the South Salt Lake area. And so I'd asked Gary if maybe he could put together a few guests for us to kind of educate you guys on what's happening in South Salt Lake, because I know all of you guys, especially the younger ones, know that this has become one of the most progressive cities in Utah, and honestly, probably one of the more progressive cities in the country. And I think it's pretty cool that we've got Alex here, and Alex is the community director for the South Salt Lake. And then we also have Randy here, and Randy works as, I think, the economic developer for South Salt Lake. And so they're going to talk to you guys about some of the cool things that they've done to make South Salt Lake what it is, but also the things that are happening right now that you guys should be aware of for the investors, both on the residential side and on the commercial side. So without further ado, please welcome Gary and Alex and Randy. Come on up, guys.
Thanks, Josh.
Yeah.
As Josh said, Gary Birdsall, the man behind this mask. Congratulations to Keller Williams. What you folks, if you want to hear about South Salt Lake and what's going on, what we're doing for you folks are doing amazingly well. I first met Josh at his mom's house at an always fun party. This young man was working in the kitchen. He was catering that event. So whatever year that was, but then I started working close with Josh in 2005. I ran BNI Utah for 7 years. And one of the first chapters we started building on was his. And as you can imagine, it was a kind of like a Keller Williams moment. He knows what he's doing. He surrounds himself with smart people. That's my goal. And then just have fun. I can tell this morning you guys have fun. I want to just take a few minutes and give a brief on, we mentioned the South Salt Lake Chamber. I'm sorry, my voice is a little scratchy this morning. Not contagious. Or are we scared of this stuff or what?
Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing. But the South Salt Lake Chamber, as I mentioned in my intro, 9 years in April I've been here. And the reason I stick around is this is just a fun city to be in. We have our own police and fire, and they just mesh in the community. And very few people that work in this city live in this city. Okay, and I think that's the case probably elsewhere. But we love coming to work in the city, and the partnership that the chamber has built really over the years. By the way, the chamber this year will be celebrating its 70th year. So we've been doing something right. Hopefully that includes bringing me on 9 years ago. But anyway, strong partnership with these guys, Alex and Randy. And I'm so glad that Josh reached out. I look forward to, as these two do, finding out which the cadre of Keller Williams folks who spend a lot of time doing business in South Salt Lake. So Alex White, I'm going to turn Alexander, but Alex, I'm going to turn over to her.
South Salt Lake's a really unique city. For those of you who are not familiar with the boundaries, we are bordering Salt Lake City, Mill Creek, and West Valley. So we go from 21st South, 5th and 7th East. It kind of jogs along the eastern boundary to 3900 South all the way to the Jordan River. So we're about 7 square acres. Miles, not acres. It's a Monday for me. 7 square miles. We actually have a pretty square boundary, unlike a lot of cities here in Salt Lake County, so that is unique. But about 10 years ago, maybe even a little longer, our mayor put out an initiative to really redefine South Salt Lake and change its image. And part of that was identifying and creating a downtown for South Salt Lake. So when you think of South Salt Lake, you really don't think of something, if you don't know when you've entered, you don't know when you've left. A lot of other cities have an area, whether it be a main street or like Sugar House, the core here, that you can identify as a neighborhood. And that was something that was missing from South Salt Lake. And so for the first 5 or so years, the mayor and her prior staff did a lot of groundwork trying to rebrand and reinvent what South Salt Lake was, and pushing that out to the community. As part of that process, we went through our zoning code and our master plans and basically threw them out and said, let's start over. We can't do what we've done in the past if we want to do something different in the future. So we did a downtown master plan. The first thing we did was identify a downtown district for South Salt Lake, which is 21st South, State Street, I-80 to I-15. It's where the Winco Foods is, if you're familiar with that neighborhood. Also where there's a lot of cranes today. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But that was kind of the first initiative, was creating the downtown and looking at the master planning on how to kind of recreate that neighborhood. So as we were going through the master planning process and recreating our zoning, one of the first things we did, which was really unique to South Salt Lake, it was kind of the opposite of what every other community in the county was doing. We removed all of our height limitations and all of our density requirements. We basically said, whatever you can build, whatever you can pencil and finance, and as long as you can park it, you can build it. We had design standards. That's not to say like ugly buildings made it through. Ugly buildings didn't make it through. But we wanted to be really development friendly in that district to try and drive and spur new projects to come to the area. Most of South Salt Lake is very industrial. Our buildings are 50, 60 years old, single story CMU block, largely unreinforced. So they are at the end of their lifespan, and that was something we recognized, that some could probably be salvaged, but largely a lot of the things would be coming down. And so That was kind of the kickoff for the downtown. Maybe Randy can kind of tag team here with me, but the first project was the city and the RDA purchased. Was it
12 acres
12
of property. So the redevelopment agency, for those of you who don't know what a redevelopment agency is, basically what it is under state law, a city can create a agency that's independent, different from the city, and they have the right to give away incentives, and the incentive they give away is property tax. So the idea is that as you tear down a new building or tear down a building and you build a new one, that new building is going to have a higher assessed value or a higher property tax than what the property had before. And so the redevelopment agency can take that increase in property tax and use that as an incentive and give that back to the developer to help them build or buy the land or whatever the cost of that are. It's a gap financing. And in this case, what the city said, hey, if we're going to get this started, we need to be the first ones out of the block to get something going. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go buy property. And then we're going to use that property as an incentive to bring somebody in. As Alex mentioned on the downtown plan, we spent a lot of time trying to decide how do you start building a downtown, because we were kind of starting from scratch. And we went to different cities and met with different people. And the first thing they told us that we needed to do, and I thought it was crazy, build a grocery store. The first thing that you need to do to start a downtown is you need to build a grocery store, because everybody's going to go to a grocery store. And so once you start building a grocery store, you'll start seeing the residential come in, you'll start seeing the office come in. It's kind of the catalyst. So we went out, bought 15 acres of property, and we basically sold that property to Winco for $1 to get them to come in and build that store. And that store's done a lot for us. It's the #1 Winco in the state of Utah. It's the #2 in the region. So it was a really good start. So that's why you see a grocery store kind of in the middle of a downtown, because we were told that was the first thing we needed to do. So with that, that's kind of how we started the wheel going. And then all of a sudden, everything just started to pop. And I'll let Alex continue with that. So.
Yeah, so kind of with the grocery store, I mean, we really felt it was, we had to be the catalyst. We had to put our money where our mouth was. If we wanted people to come in and build, not $1 million projects, but $100 million projects, we had to be the first out the gate to get that project going. So the Winco was our first project through. With that, that was a master plan development that had 5 parcels included in that. The intent was that the grocery store would be the center. There would be a couple pad commercial retail spaces along State Street, and then 2 residential projects kind of capping that project. A couple of those are built today. So we have Raising Cane's that would be opening, doing a grand opening, I want to say like March 8th. They're coming up. A lot of people are very excited. We also have a bank. We have 1 outstanding pad that has not been built. We have 1 townhome project that was built by Cowboy Partners along the streetcar line that went in shortly after Winco. And then we have 1 more pad for multifamily residential that has not yet moved forward, but we do have a project in queue there. So to kind of jump back to the zoning stuff, because the zoning part is really the key to making this all work with the master plan. While we were going through this whole Winco master plan and project, we also went back to our council and said, hey, we need to make some changes on our business licensing, and specifically our alcohol licensing. We were one of the first cities in the state to go back and increase our cap limit on the amount of liquor licenses that we would issue on a per capita basis for the city. And in doing so, for those of you who have been to our breweries, we have about 6 breweries within a 2-mile radius, all within our downtown, that were relocated specifically because of that increase in cap. So we had a lot of businesses relocating from Park City, downtown Salt Lake, and other areas to come to what's being called Brewery Row now.
Granary, right?
No.
Brewery, they call it Brewery Road.
The granary is a little bit north, but a lot of this.
There's all the breweries that
similar,
run
yeah.
through that whole road.
We have other departments in the city that do a lot of groundwork, the gritty work on the ground. We have an arts council who's been really good at trying to spur grassroots businesses, the creative industry, getting people to really embrace this neighborhood and make it their own. Because the downtown is only as good as the people and the businesses that are located in it. And so we've had a lot of, events, marketing, mural fest,
Industrial zone.
Crafttober Fest. There's lots of activities and events that happen throughout the year to kind of bring the downtown businesses together and trying to grow traction with new and existing businesses in the area. So in the last 5 years, and this is really where I'm like holding on for dear life, the traction has taken off. We were designated as an opportunity zone. I don't know how familiar you guys are with those, but it's another way to see it now. Do you want to explain the opportunity zone?
Basically, what happened is an opportunity zone in a very simple way is if you have an investors that have sold property under federal law, they have a capital gains tax they have to pay. But if they invest that capital gains back into a real estate development, it's deferred for a 10-year period of time. And so you can continue to take your product and keep moving and invest it. You never have to pay capital gains. So if you have investors who have hundreds of millions of dollars, that's a great incentive for them because they don't have to pay the 25% capital gains.
Not only that, but it doesn't have to, the opportunity zone, from what I understand, the 1030, it doesn't have to be technically a 1031. So
That's
you could have
correct.
sold a business.
Right.
And then deferred the taxes on that by investing money in an opportunity zone.
Right, and we are the only community in the state of Utah where the entire city has been designated as an opportunity zone. And that was because of our capital, basically our population, the type of money it was. We were designated as kind of a poor community, for lack of a better word. And so what we're seeing with a lot of our developments is we're having these investors outside of the state of Utah that have big bucks,
Big money.
and they're looking for opportunity to develop. And so you have a development team that knows and smart enough to say, hey, let's go get those investors and let's sell them on our opportunity zone. So that's one of another really good thing that's happened to the city is this opportunity zone.
So since the opportunity zone designation went in place, I want to say it was about
2018, 2019, yeah, right around that time.
We've had approximately 15 projects come into queue in our downtown district. And when I say projects, I don't mean single parcel projects. I mean developers coming in and buying entire city blocks, 15 to 30 buildings, and master planning 10 to 20 acres at a time. These projects and the buildings that they're bringing, I've got anywhere from $100 to $300 million investment on each one of these buildings. I've got 12 in queue right now that could break ground this year, depending on how it flows. Our projects are ranging right now anywhere from 4 to 15 stories. Multifamily mixed use. We've got some all office buildings. We're starting to get a little bit of traction in the tech industry, which is interesting. A lot of businesses are looking elsewhere, not down in Lehigh, not near the prison site, but they like the location of South Salt Lake because of the freeway connections and location in proximity to Park City. We've got I can't really disclose details on a lot of them because they're in the entitlement process right now. But I mean, some of these projects, to put it into perspective, like one of them that was just submitted is an 8-acre parking structure that's 3 stories with 6 towers on top of it. So think City Creek, but bigger.
Yeah.
Like these projects are not small. I'm in full-blown panic mode. Because I'm getting calls daily from developers and investors all over the country, not just local. I mean, we have all of the local guys, every single one of them are talking to us, but we're just being bombarded with requests for development. The one thing that has, I don't want to say slowed it, but kind of put a little bit of a halt on development temporarily is we are at 100% sewer capacity, which for those of you who never played SimCity, it's a problem. And everything's got to hook to the system, everything's got to work. And so that's one of those things that we're working through right now. We're using a PID, which is a public infrastructure district. You've probably heard that in the news. Mayor Mendenhall's doing that out on the inland port. They're looking at it for the prison relocation site. So there are tools out there that we can use to upgrade our underground and above ground infrastructure to support these types of buildings. And that's likely something that's going to continue as these projects come in, just because we're such an old city and there's only so much capacity in our existing sites. But we, I think our downtown district is spot on. I think people know what's happening. There are projects that are coming out of the ground right now. I've got the PDQ office building at 2200 South Main. There's 150,000 square feet of Class A office. I believe that's almost fully leased. It's very close if it's not.
4,000 square feet left of the building.
It was full, I said full, but
Yeah.
it was full before they opened. Those were two tech companies that left Salt Lake City. Right next door to that, I've got a 10-story multifamily mixed-use building that the crane's up right now. They are framing on that. We've got, like I said, numerous projects in queue. So it's evolving very quickly. I imagine we'll start seeing a lot more cranes soon. But there still are a lot of blocks, a lot of parcels, and a lot of room for more projects in this district. So that's really where we turn it back to you guys to go out and find the projects, find the investors. Now, I don't know if you have anything else in the downtown, but this is just one district of South Salt Lake. We've got the whole 3300 South Corridor, which we are in the process of master planning. From State Street to the freeway needs a complete overhaul. You guys love it or hate it, but I personally do not like it. Everything there needs some revision. We've got some pretty big projects potentially in queue on that corridor. There is a track station, so anywhere that you do have a track station, transit-oriented development is bound to happen. It's just a timing thing. On the west side of 3300 or west side of I-15 on 3300 South, we've got some fairly big flex industrial projects that are potentially coming down the tube. But I imagine we'll have some leasing.
There'll probably be an announcement on that, I think, within the next 60 to 90 days. There's a developer that is in negotiations with the Central Valley Sewer District, which leases the property to Golf in the Round. And there's a developer that's working with them to try to change that. For us who are golfers, I apologize. But that property right now, just to give you an idea, only brings about $3,000 in property tax.
Oh,
Yeah, it does not bring a lot. And so if you can imagine, if you can reposition that and bring something, the economic benefit that can have to not just us, but to the school district, to the county, because the property tax goes and flows to everybody. So that's a project that's in the work, and probably you'll hear something about that officially maybe in the next 60 to 90 days.
Just to give you an idea on the scale, it's probably about 1 million square feet,
A little bit more than
a little more than that.
that, but that's pretty
It's big.
big.
It's big.
wow.
I think one thing about South Salt Lake that's kind of unique as a city with other communities, we have 2 jails in our community. We have a homeless resource center in our community. And we have a sewer treatment plant in our community. And all within a quarter mile of each other. And when we did a thing back about 6 or 7 years ago, where we looked at our assessed value, we found out almost 25% of our property value is off the tax rolls, meaning it's owned by government or a non-taxable entity. And so one of the things that we really have to try to do is, since we have kind of a disadvantage and we have some of these image issues, is try to revamp that and redevelop those image issues. So one of the things that Mayor Wood did, she came in with this vision, and if you've seen our slogan, it's City on the Move. And that's what we're trying to do. So we're trying to change the image, not just in downtown, but throughout the community, wherever we can have an opportunity development, we're looking at those opportunities. And again, as an opportunity zone, it doesn't matter where you develop, you're going to benefit from that because the whole city is an opportunity zone.
Well, and I don't know if you caught this, but I'm going to repeat it for you. South Salt Lake has no height restriction and no density.
Just in the downtown.
In the downtown.
Just in the downtown.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying.
Not everywhere.
But that offers, investors an opportunity, especially within the opportunity zone itself, to really maximize, potential. I think it's just the parking requirements that we have to work.
Parking usually is the #1 driver of the high density big projects. And that's usually where most of these conversations come in, because parking is also probably the most expensive component of those projects, depending on how they structure it. Most of South Salt Lake, our soils are bad. It's just where we're at in the valley. So every one of these projects is screwed in, but with geo piers. And there's a lot of groundwork that has to go in before you can actually build any of these parking structures, which makes them more expensive than.
Right, and the new thing now is to build parking structure and then wrap it with the apartments and everything else. And for a developer, that's why height is so important, because the higher I can go, the more apartments I can get to help cover some of that cost. So it's kind of a unique thing that you'll be seeing that will happen probably in most communities now, because of market grounds, as you guys know, it's not very cheap. It's a very expensive commodity now, and there's very little of it. And in our community, it's more of a redevelopment, i.e., we don't have vacant ground. We have to go in, tear down what's there, and then build new. And so it's more expensive to buy that property. So the vision, I think, with Alex and the others was, particularly in our downtown, was let's just do that. We don't care.
We're pro demo.
We're pro demo, and if you can do 100 units per acre, 190 units per acre, we don't care. Do it. And that's something you do not see in a lot of communities. You don't see that. I think I was looking at your back wall here on your belief system, and I was kind of looking at some of those factors, and I was thinking, that's very, very similar to what a city has to do when we're looking at our development. There has to be a win-win, i.e. the developer's got to win and the city's got to win. And we try to negotiate to make that happen. Alex she has probably the toughest job in the city, because she's the one that hears all of the complaining, all of the can't do this and all that. She's the arm twister. I'm trying to be the finesse guy that tries to, when she gets into a battle with somebody, I try to take the developer and pull them aside and pat their back and buy them a cup of coffee to try and make them. And then I try to send them back to her to try to do it. So teamwork is a really important thing in development. And it doesn't matter if you're in the private or the public side. There has to be good teamwork. If you don't have good teamwork, then you're going to fail right from the beginning. And one of the things that the mayor has done, she's built a cabinet of people who believe in each other, trust each other. We don't always get along. We don't always agree, but we always get along. But the thing is, it's a good teamwork concept there. The win-win is there. The integrity has to be there, because we're dealing with people that have a lot of money, that have a lot of investment. Time is money to a developer. And if we lie to them or screw with them, they won't come back. And the thing that I found out in this business, and I've been around a while, once you offend one, they're gonna tell everybody. I mean, they talk to everybody. Developers talk all the time to each other, and that kind of helps. It helps. Customers are always the citizens first in the city, and then those that we have to deal with. But I was looking at those and thinking that for South Salt Lake and the way that we become the way that we are and the way we're moving forward is a lot of those same belief systems you have on that back wall are the same that work within our community.
We'll let you take it. We'll let you take it. You can post it in the city.
But I look at that, creativity, man, I don't think there's a city in the state of Utah that's been as creative as South Salt Lake.
Maybe the country.
And I give a lot of that credit to Alex and you know, she's got a great planning background, but she's also one that looks outside the box. That's one of the things we have to do a lot of times is look outside of the box. And that can sometimes be the most difficult because you've got all of these other factors. You know, we get people all the time complaining that we're building apartments. But you know, what else can you do? We can't build single family homes.
Well, we don't have enough apartments for
Yeah,
that matter. So
yeah.
Thank you. for doing that.
and so we're going to continue to do that. That's going to be opportunity for you guys to continue to find people to lease those and work with developers. So we are a city on the move, and we've got it's going to be amazing to see what happens over the next 5 to 10 years with this community. You won't recognize it. I think when we get done, we're going to be just as tall, just as big, just as dense as Salt Lake. I think some of these businesses and these companies we're moving in are pretty impressive. And again, you can't thank enough our political people. It's a city council that has to approve a lot of this stuff. And if you don't have a good city council, then sometimes you're fighting battles. We've had that happen. We've had a couple of years where we had some difficult times trying to sell the vision and try to convince them. But again, that's that teamwork. The teamwork's so important. It's a administrative staff that has to work with the city council that's elected officials. And sometimes there is clash. But the idea is to get creative and look outside that box and to come up with a product that everybody can believe in.
Just to add to that, for you guys too, what I've always taken in my position, surround yourself with people who are smarter than you and that can help you. Because I get into corners and I have so many consultants and people I can turn to that are experts in very specific small areas that dig me out of holes all the time, especially when you're being creative and trying to bring something. Don't feel that you have to know it all because you're not. To have specialties, and when you don't know, find the person that knows it. That's probably my biggest takeaway. I see a couple of questions, so I'm start with you.
I actually have 2 quick questions. The first one, you mentioned like the tech industry is kind of moving in there. I don't know if you can go into a little more depth on that. I just know a few people at tech that might be interested in hearing about that.
So the biggest thing is there's been a change in the last year, at least with the developers here in Utah that we've been meeting with, on types of office space that businesses specifically are looking for. The traditional Class A office space is still popular, still very needed, and there's still a great need for that. But what we're finding, a lot of these developers are asking for that type of building, but with a higher floor plate, so that they can essentially do tenant improvements to bring in more of like the lab type tech industry, to house and this is not my area, but like the different types of servers and components that those buildings need to actually service the tech industry. We found that they don't work well in the standard floor plate on Class A office. So a lot of the new office buildings they're looking at are considering increasing that so that there's the flexibility to go either way. And we have gotten traction. We have a couple in the first phase of the South City or the Mill. You've probably heard a couple names. It's the office building that's at 2200 South Main across from Linco. There's 2 businesses in there. We've got a couple other ones that are kind of looking at different options right now. But I think the location and proximity to I-80, the 201 and I-15, right where we cross in our downtown, is very intriguing to the tech industry with the location, the different neighborhoods in transit. So I think we'll see more of that, but it's mostly just the change in like the style of office building is what we're seeing.
And then is there a place that like I could like look into all of this, like do a website or anything?
So we do have a website. Our website is sslc.gov, but I do not have a map of current projects.
Okay.
A lot of those are confidential until they're published. But if you have specific questions, you can reach out.
Yeah, for you guys, we'll have their contact information on the board behind you. I've not put Randy's up there yet, but I'll go ahead and get his up there. So if you have development specific questions, those are great people to chat with.
Yeah, question.
Yeah, I just want to thank you guys for coming and we're lucky, the city's lucky to have such progressive thinkers in leadership. And I think for the answer to the question up here, and for a lot of agents that ask, how do you learn about development? Is a huge opportunity. You're seeing a city being recreated right here in our local proximity. And those of you guys that are really curious, I would encourage you to get on the website and look at the planning commission, city council agendas and go, you talk to a lot of them for Zoom. But follow a project all the way through. You can learn so much when they're presented. You'll see the site plans and the back and forth between the planning commission will comment. And send back for different renditions. I think it gives you great value to bring to your clients on being up to date with what's coming, but such a huge opportunity. I mean, I think the city is being created right under our noses in the next 5 years. So a huge learning opportunity for all of us. Just really pay attention.
2 questions. Your high density, is it all rental or, how are you guys deciding whether the project can be rental or sell? And do you have a percentage for that? Because that seems to be a biggest issue.
That's a very hot topic. So currently, my understanding under the law, at least cities cannot regulate whether something is owner occupied or a rental. We just fill the form and then it's one of your rights, whether you want to own it or rent it. Same thing with the single family home. We can't tell you which way you want to go. The legislative session just started today, so we'll see what happens.
There is a bill.
There's a lot of affordable housing conversation.
There is a bill. It hasn't come out yet, but it's a discussion of whether or not you need to do exactly what you're saying, change the law that requires in a development that X% of that has to be a for sale product and X% of that has to be a rental product. But right now, Alex is right. Cities don't have the right to tell a developer what he can or can't do as far as that goes.
It's pretty much all organic, and we find that some developers prefer to own and rent, and some prefer to sell. It's completely depending on their portfolio right now.
The second question is, all these new builds that come in, how are you guys managing that with the small business that's already there? I mean, we're seeing that in downtown Salt Lake right now. Some of these smaller businesses that have been there for years are being pushed out. So how are you guys trying to balance that out?
Yeah. So what I didn't discuss, I'm also over the business licensing department and the building department. So one of my other tiers. Licensing is a continual, I wouldn't say nightmare, but it's just always evolving. Unfortunately, some businesses are going to be pushed out. If there's a good businesses, we do a good business in the community. We do our best to try and relocate them or rehome them into another facility that may even fit their needs better. That's not always successful.
Yeah, one of the things I do with one of my roles is I'm kind of a business relations services guy. So what I try to do is when I find out the developer is going to do something, I ask the developer what's happening with the existing tenants. and then I try to go meet with them and find out if they're looking for another location, try to get their information. And then one thing I use, which probably I probably need, is I use the real estate community to find that space. That's, you guys are those experts, not me. I have a real estate license, but it's inactive, but that's who I use, the real estate community. So if I get listings that you might have a space or something that might be on the market, that's always helpful. Because if I have a tenant that needs to relocate, then I can send them your way to finalize that.
We also do that too, with stuff that's not on the market.
Yeah, we do that
found
with,
stuff
yeah.
moves so quickly, I don't know
Yeah.
if you guys know this, but a lot of times we have to try and rehome before stuff gets listed, or it's just word of mouth, like, oh, I have a
Right.
space, I'll sell it to you for this. Like, there's a lot of stuff that just have transactions that happen.
I've got one more question. How are you guys expediting zoning for some of these? As you spread out from like the main cities, you know, you get into some more of a residential, you got the mixed use areas. Are you expediting zoning for those buildings or?
So
have you thought about that?
I do not have the capacity with my current staff to do any expedited zoning. Instead, what we've done is, we process everything in the order it should be, regardless of what it is. We have a policy in our office that everything that comes in, we review within 10 business days. That doesn't mean approve, it just means we'll review it and get back to you. And we found that by being responsive within that essentially 2-week window, it keeps things moving. Usually the longest time as part of the entitlement process is not the city. It's usually the applicant, whether it be the design team or the project manager, getting their team in order to respond to our comments and getting it resubmitted. So I tell my staff, I don't ever want it to be on us. Just get the comments out the door and let them noodle on it for however long they want to go on it. Because there's going to be projects that are, you know, gung ho on getting done in a couple months, and their teams will be built and geared to responding as quick as possible. And there's going to be teams that, you know, they want to take 5 years on entitlement, and that's quite frankly not my problem. That's theirs. And so just getting it off my plate onto theirs. So we don't expedite at this point.
Two items. One, thank you very much for opening the homeless shelter. We have a homeless problem, and it's not just a downtown Salt Lake City problem. And it was sad to not see the community step up, but I like how you handled it and set up a really lovely building. Secondly, I think I'm going to keep my investment property in South Salt Lake.
Sounds like it's.
We talked to our clients about that South Salt Lake is going to be a really good investment.
We hope so.
We hope so.
This is probably not the most fun question, but how has COVID affected all of it? I mean, I imagine, I know, I'm just, it's so interesting.
COVID has been horrible on all grounds. Trying to keep our staff in the office and working healthy has been one issue. We've just been going through bouts of COVID over the last 2 years. But I think from a development standpoint, I think the biggest issue we've had is the supply chain. I mean, I've issued permits, like the big multifamily 10-story building we have right now under construction. I issued that permit 11 months ago, and they only got lumber 2 weeks ago. And so supply chain has been a nightmare on getting certain products. There's been a huge increase in certain materials, up to like 60 to 75% in the cost. And so a lot of these big buildings, it's, you know, we're trying to reevaluate how to reduce the cost to keep them still viable and make them still pencil. And that's been something that's just been everywhere, all over the board. So I think that's probably the worst part.
How long do you think the entire development's going to take until it? I do think it's kind of so
Longer than I will be with.
Yeah, it's a very long-term process. I mean, we're probably talking
Go through waves.
in both ways. Right now, we've got a lot of projects in the system that we're waiting to get the sewer system built. And once that's done, then you'll probably just see,
See a first wave.
you'll see a whole big wave of things going. And then that'll probably settle down. It's kind of like with the market. I know right now, everybody's a little concerned with inflation. everybody's a little concerned with, with interest rates. And so I think you might see some investors just kind of say, we're going to kind of hold on right now and just kind of take this wave. So again, our market's a lot like your market. It's the up and down and flows with what happens with the economy. But yeah, I think, we're talking a 10, 15-year build out for South Salt Lake.
If not longer.
If not longer, so.
Do we have any other questions?
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
You guys appreciate it.
We are such an amazing team, and we're so happy to have all this information. And we have a lot in common. We're a company on the move, just like you guys are city on the move.
Yeah, we're impressed. I may take a picture of the lead board back there.
It's a great,
John said it's okay.
that is a great board right there.
That's our company. Well, thank you again. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Thank you.
We're gonna have our cultural icon now come up and tell us who she has chosen to give the award to.
I got you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Thanks.
I'll start off with saying, when I first got this award, I didn't believe that I deserved it. Because just like Miss White said, we think we have to know it all. We think we have to have it all. And I wish I could just break a piece off of this and give it to each one of you like a mean girl, right? But there's someone that I think really deserves this award. Someone who's not exactly the loudest person in the room, not the most boisterous, but they're always here, quietly learning and observing and being kind to everybody. And I really wish that I had some of the qualities that this person has, because I think that they are truly a leader, even though we don't recognize them all the time. So I'm going to nominate Andrea from the Wiggins group. She's in the Zoom, or actually
She was right outside. We'll congratulate her. That's awesome. Thank you.
that's that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, good job. Did you see where she went?
All right, we're going to give our vendor fresh paint, fresh coat. I'm sorry, Justin, do you want to come up? We're going to give you a couple of minutes to tell us a little bit about you, and thank you for being on our vendor team.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to be back. Been here once before. So just a couple things to, as a reminder, if you weren't here before to listen to it, but basically we have what we call a VIP realtor program. So what that is we like to refer to as pay now, pay closing. So 3 to 6 months, same as cash financing option. The other thing too is, we understand when people move out, they bang up walls and so on and so forth. And so we'll go back in up to an hour with the paint left over and do a touch up before the seller, or the buyer moves in. The other thing too is on most of our painting projects, the exclusions that we have are decks and pergolas and things that Mother Nature rakes have it on. That's the things we exclude from warranty, just because there's so many variables there. But standard painting is a two-year warranty that we offer, and that is transferable. And all the quotes we do are free. The other thing too, some of the services we offer, obviously all full exterior, interior, like I mentioned, staining, painting, fences, decks, pergolas. Cabinet painting is very popular right now. It's wallpaper removal and epoxy floor. And this is what, this is my quick elevator speech of, what makes us unique. We don't subcontract. All of our painters are my employees. They're all background checked. We do that every 6 months just to make sure that everything's above board. Average painter has 12 years. Our godfather, he's got 35 years of experience. And actually bringing on 3 more painters right now, all with about 15 to 30 years of experience. So we definitely look for journeyman painters. There again, free quotes, no hidden fees. Our quotes are itemized. And so there again, as projects happen, you can move things around. End of the day, customer knows exactly what they're paying for. There's no negotiations at the end. And, you know, we pride ourselves on the products. There's a lot of, just like in anything, especially building related, there's builder products and there's better products. We really try to stay away from the builder grade stuff for a whole host of reasons. And so primarily we use Sherwin-Williams and Stitch and Moore as our preferred vendor, so. I'm gonna run across, get pizza for you guys. And,
Thank you. You're so kind. Thank you, thank you. Does
Yeah.
anyone have any questions for Justin?
Feel free, we do a lot on Instagram. Obviously, painting is very visual. So if you want to follow us and see, we post a lot of projects up there before and after. Yeah, right. So right now, obviously, this is our slower time. So we're about 2.5 weeks out.
What's your geographical area that you serve?
Typically, we'll do, you know, Davis County, Salt Lake County, and then Utah County. Or we don't really like to go past Provo, but depending on the scope of the project and so forth, we may look at that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here. and Thanks for. You have to already sign up for the awards gala. We send that out today as well. It's going to be a ton of fun, January 28th, 7 to 8 downtown at the Marriott City Center. Who signed up? It's going to be fun. Get on there and sign up today. And everyone is welcome.
Question about that. Did you guys
Absolutely.
get an email from the Regent from Gordon?
Yes.
Yes.
From that you did from the meeting?
Check your email.
Yeah.
You gotta read it.
That's the first key is you have to check it now.
All right, let's do wants and needs and get you back to work. Linda.
Just really quickly, we do guests and people, so I wanted to introduce you guys to a couple of people.